you doing? I'm Michael Bell, the voice of Duke.
Hi, this is Adrienne Palicki, Lady J from G.I. Joe.
Hey there, it's Rachel Nichols, aka Scarlet.
And if you're listening...
And you're listening...
And you are listening to Anything Joe's, a collaborative journey through the world of G.I. Joe with Greg and Jaren.
Yo, Joe!
It's Greg and Jaren on the mic. Let's go. Time to dive into the world of G.I. Joe. From comics to toys, cartoons to flicks. Exploring every era, get your nostalgia fix. Classified secrets to vintage finds. Analyzing story arcs, collecting toy lines. Whether you're a pro or a new recruit, join the team, grab your gear, follow suit. It's Anything Joe's, your frontline crew. Every facet of the Joe world we're searching through. Yo, Joe, Cobra, the battle's begun. A collaborative journey, let's have some fun.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Anything Joe's, a collaborative journey through the world of G.I. Joe. My name is Greg Engel.
And I'm Jaren Decker.
And we'll be your host today. Today on Anything Joe's, we got something for everybody. We're going to talk about the comic, we're going to talk about some toys, and we're going to talk about the live-action G.I. Joe movie, which is a roller coaster of emotions if you've ever been through a G.I. Joe movie. But before we get to that, we've got to get to some other news that's been happening recently that we haven't had a chance to talk about. In the most recent G.I. Joe: A Real American Hero, they introduced Tomb Raider, who is now joining the A Real American Hero universe, written by Larry Hama, which is very unusual, and they're making a spin-off or a limited series of her and G.I. Joe together. And I have to admit, I wouldn't have expected this. We knew the figure was coming for a little bit, and I was excited about the possibility. Throwbacks to when they did the G.I. Joe Danger Girl crossover, which is a J. Scott Campbell vehicle that's sort of like female James Bond agents, and is a very good series. Didn't run for very long, but it reminded me of when they crossed over because it was a very unusual property crossover at that time. And this follows suit. I would have never picked Tomb Raider to be a G.I. Joe companion. It makes sense in a lot of ways. She searches for treasures, kind of like Indiana Jones. They often have a supernatural spin on them, much like Indiana Jones. And I think all that works into the G.I. Joe mythology pretty easily. Lara Croft is looking for some crazy relic, and it just also happens to, I don't know, reanimate the dead or creates dinosaurs. I mean, like the crossover potential, especially if you're leaning into the cartoon universe where things were a little bit more fantastical, I think goes hand in hand. So I'm very interested in seeing like what the actual storyline revolves around. I think that's probably the pitch. If I had to put a pin on it, is that she's looking for something that Cobra's also looking for. She gets G.I. Joe involved, chaos ensues.
It's very interesting because I love Tomb Raider. I love the games. I love all the movies. My daughter just watched Tomb Raider, the newest one with Alicia Vikander, and she was like, "That was awesome." And so I'm a fan of Tomb Raider. I was shocked that she's joining the Real American Hero universe. I thought that would have stayed self-contained. And she would have been in more than the Energon universe, but I mean, it not like there's any like crazy difference in them. They both can lean into the kind of supernatural. I guess it's a little harder to care about Tomb Raider when she could get stepped on by a transformer, or you know, she doesn't fit in the outer space, which is where it seems like, at least to me, where things are kind of pushing with the Energon universe. So I guess that's why, but. And I don't know how much we've talked about the action figure that's coming out either. I am excited for that because it looks really good, like the face sculpt and all that. The accessories are cool. Couldn't care less about pretty much any of them. Just give me your pistols. And that's all I need, But I have not yet read any of the issues. I'm a little behind on A Real American Hero because I've been trying to catch up on the Energon universe and Void Rivals, and then also with all the other comics. So this is on my read list. I just got to get in there and snag a copy, or maybe I'll just figure out how to get the details for it. But I don't know, like, where is the end game? Like, is she just going to become part of the universe forever, or is it going to be like she's here and we've made this agreement to get her in here, and then she's going to spin off on her own book, and then we're going to not even actually acknowledge that they were ever together at the same time anyway. So that'll be the thing down the line where I'll be excited to see kind of if she is fully actually merged, or if this is just kind of like a, hey, look, Tomb Raider's cool, we're cool. And they're just using it a kind of backdoor pilot for a Tomb Raider book.
I think that's probably right. To echo your early sentiment, yes, it doesn't make sense for her to be in the Energon universe, which is like the most science fiction version of G.I. Joe that we've seen. It's all Cobra Law and Predacons getting ready to be in it. It couldn't be any further away from kind of like the normal's not the right word, but Tomb Raider is slightly more grounded in reality, and I'm using that very loosely because I have played the Tomb Raider games. I know what we're going into. I think to talk to your second point, I was surprised to see Lara Croft introduced in Larry's A Real American Hero book. I think it's 320 is the issue she's just in the end of it. Because obviously they're wanting to promote the standalone book that Larry's not writing, which I think is hilarious. The idea of Larry watching old PS1 Tomb Raider footage, I'm quite confident he's never played a Tomb Raider game. Maybe he's seen the movies, probably wasn't impressed, but just him looking at that low polygon stuff being like, what the am I supposed to do with this square boob lady? So... I want
to know if Larry would do could you commission him to like do a sketch of Lara now? Like, he's technically worked on her, you know.
He
can't say it's
would
not
be
a character.
to. Larry goes back and forth on the. I've met Larry maybe half a dozen times in the con circuit, and what he's willing to do seems to just vary depending on how he's feeling, what's going on. Because there was a point where he'd put up a thing where he was like, he will never draw Globulus because he was a staunch anti-Cobra Law guy from the beginning. When the movie was coming out, he was like, I'm not putting these in my book. No, thank you, sir. And they never did. So I feel like this is similar. If she's in the next issue, I think the storyline will be very brief, or it will be more setting up of the miniseries, and then she'll be gone. I do not see her being on the team like all the time. I would be shocked if Larry does use her a lot. I feel like he won't do much research, and he'll just project a different sort of type of personality onto her based on what he wants, which could be interesting. I'm not dogging on Larry. Larry's written plenty of other non-G.I. Joe stuff that's exceptional. He did a great run on Wolverine. I've read many Batman books that he wrote.
He did a Star Wars book.
Yeah, Larry's a very talented writer, so I'm not dogging on that at all. If this was just a Tomb Raider book that Larry was writing, I bet he would crush it. But because he's coming into a universe that Larry quite specifically has a lockdown on, I'm curious on how she's going to be like portrayed in the book. But I'm interested in it. I think it's all very interesting.
I like the idea that Larry is actually a huge Tomb Raider fan. That's going to be my headcanon. He was like, I love Tomb Raider. I think these things are incredible. Maybe he's even played the PS1 games. There's until somebody asks Larry, I'm gonna imagine that he's like, oh, this adventure, like, listen, let me live in my little bubble of being blissfully unaware, and I'm just gonna choose to believe that Larry is actually a huge Tomb Raider. So when he found out that they were making a Tomb Raider book, he was like, let me put her in. Let me put her in my book.
I'll write him a letter. We'll get into the letters column. I would also be curious to know what Larry's thinking behind adapting Tomb Raider, like what his approach was. Did he do any research on it, or is he vaguely familiar with the character, or was he just like, whatever, I'm just gonna do whatever? Because I know he does that sometimes. He just like goes off on his own. I got no issues with that. I trust Larry to like provide an entertaining story month to month, and I have since the 80s, and he rarely lets me down. There might be some runs I don't enjoy, but as a whole, I've always enjoyed the overall experience of just having a Real American Hero book to read month to month until I die, hopefully. So yeah, I'm motivated for it. We haven't talked a lot about the regular A Real American Hero book, which we can't get into right now because I have lots of thoughts about it. I think it has veered off a little bit, but I still am greatly enjoying the stuff that's going on. It sometimes is a little slow for me. I might be spoiled from reading trades so much, where the story just unfolds naturally. You read it at the pace you need it to be done. And then when you're reading the monthly, sometimes there's these gaps where you're just like, nothing happened in that issue. It's not the worst example by far. I can think of many books, The Walking Dead, that do not read well month to month, but read very well, when you're reading it in its entirety. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm already getting off on that tangent. So, Tomb Raider coming. Would love to hear some thoughts from the audience on, do you think this is just a crappy cash grab? Do you think this was a clever tie-in product-wise? I'd like to see more of this stuff in the comic. Like, there's an Action Man coming. Just a small story arc that involved him in some capacity, I think would be great. I have incorporated Action Man into my G.I. Joe universe since they made the, awkward years era. They made a vintage figure of him probably in the early 2000s. He was in a 6-pack. And once you make a figure and put him in my hands, he's pretty much, that's all it takes for me. I'm like, okay, he's part of it. So I'd like to see more characters like that. It doesn't seem like Larry has an interest, or maybe isn't even involved in some of the newer classified stuff. So we've got all these characters that, like Sundown and Synapse and just all these newer, Wolf Spider, who's been around for quite a while now, has not been incorporated into any of the books at all. I'd like to see those guys get a little bit of showtime if possible. I know we have such a huge roster, and Larry's clearly focused in on the characters he enjoys writing, which I mean, that's fine, right? You're the writer, to write what you love. But just from a fan's perspective, I would enjoy seeing more stuff like this. Not just a specific tie-in like Tomb Raider, but characters we haven't seen before interacting with characters that we know and love.
I really want Wolf Spider to make his appearance in either comic. Any of them.
Yeah.
I love that character. Don't know anything about him, so he's kind of a blank slate, but I love him.
Well, that's the whole point, right? If he's a blank slate, all we have is a very small file card to go on. It's just like the old days. Somebody's got to take him and bring him to life, flesh him out a lot. And it doesn't matter to me which book it's in. The Energon Universe book clearly leans more into the classified designs overall. Yeah. So I feel like that would maybe be better. But again, the Energon Universe book reads like a book where the writer has a very specific roster picked out to use, because especially when you're doing a relaunch, you can't just be like, all right, here's 157 G.I. Joes. Learn them all. It's not a good jumping on point for new readers. Yeah. It's too convoluted. You don't get to see anybody. Your favorite might be in it for a panel, and that doesn't work out for anybody. So I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. I'd like to see them in somehow, somewhere, in some capacity. I just don't know who's going to do it or if they ever will. Anyway, thoughts on any of that? I'd love to. You can leave us a comment. You can write us an email at anythingjoespod@gmail.com. I'm very interested in all of this stuff, all the tie-in stuff. Next up on our list is Toy Talk. And I only really have one thing I'm going to talk about. It's the thing that was just announced. And I'm only really talking about it because I have kind of a funny story. Super 7 Plus Reaction, I think something like one of those, it's some order, those are the right words, just announced that they were doing a 3-pack of the Fatal Fluffies. If you've not been following the Super 7 Reaction Plus line, that is basically vintage figures of Super 7's choice, and they have been designing vintage characters that have rarely seen, or variations on characters, just to throw some stuff out there. They've been doing a lot of the animated movie versions, like Chuckles and Jinx without her mask on, and Lieutenant Falcon. They gave us our first Pythona. We got a Cobra La Guard. The Ramar, the Barbarian from the first 5-parter. Lots of little nods. That's right up my alley. You know me. The beast, the guy that loves all the obscure characters, finally getting it. They did a Deep Six where he's outside of his wetsuit. This is stuff that I always wanted as a kid. And that stuff's getting actualized. I think it's really well done. I've really bought into the line considerably. I had bought 2 Fatal Fluffies when they came out. I bought one to open, and I wanted to troop build them. Not as bad as the Cobra La Garde, which I have maybe close to 10 of. It's like one of my favorite troop builders. But I bought 2 Fatal Fluffies. I wanted more. I wanted to get like as many as you see in the cartoon at once. Like, what's the maximum amount? Because if you've ever watched the cartoon, you know it changes. There was no set number. Sometimes you'll see 3, sometimes there'll be 8. It just depends on what was going on in the scene. But I'd like to get a boiled down number of like, this is the most that were ever available there at once. There definitely were not more than this many, and that's how many I wanted to buy. Well, that got away from me because the Fatal Fluffy was a high demand figure, and there was tons of interest in it, like I would have expected. And so by the time I turned around, it was a $50, $80, $100 figure, and I was just like, no, there's no way. I could barely afford them at $25. I'm certainly not going to troop build them at that. So I just left it as it is and kept moving on with the line. Well, it may surprise you to know that occasionally someone will message us and say, hey, did you see this? Or did you hear about this? And it's actually kind of like advance notice. So I had like maybe a 48-hour window where somebody was like, did you see they're releasing this 3-pack of Fatal Fluffies? And it was not public knowledge at that time. So the poor businessman that I am, was like, oh, well, I'm going to sell this single Fatal Fluffy immediately, and while it's still worth something, and that will help me fund the purchase of this 3-pack, and that'll put me at 4 Fatal Fluffies. We're not even talking about the functionality. There's like, it's not just 3 Fatal Fluffies put in a box. They added a flame effect that looks really cool that fits in the mouth, and they added a secondary head that shoots that flame. So it has a little extra value, but realistically I was going to get it anyway because I wanted more of them. I would have liked to have gotten another one on top of this one, but whatever, we all got to work on our restraints. So anyway, I put it up on a 1-day auction, and I started it real cheap. I started at like maybe $30, so it was only marginally above retail. And I was just like, it's a 1-day auction. Let me get it while the getting's good. And I think it sold for like maybe $40, maybe 50 after shipping. So to me, that was good. I've lost money on tons of stuff. Sometimes I'm selling stuff because I need the room and I've just overpurchased. I'm sure this is relatable. And I just reached a point where I'm like, it does not matter to me how much money I get for it. I just need it to go away. So if I make any money, even if it's just $20, I'm like, all right, well, that's still a win. And it just so happened that I made almost exactly what I needed to buy the 3-pack, which I ordered right away. That might get here. It might arrive today. It will certainly be here no later than Monday. So it was just like done. It was in stock and ready to roll, and they shipped it out the second I bought it, basically, which was very surprising to me. We don't see that much anymore in a world of pre-orders and early announcements and year-long wind-ups. I was shocked to just be like, oh, this is announced and it's available, and I'll have it very soon. So I'm excited about that. Jaren, I know you're not a vintage guy, but I do know at least you're familiar with the Fatal Fluffies. Do you enjoy these? Do you think they're cool? It's interesting seeing with the classified one getting ready, releasing also. It just came out of San Diego Comic-Con. It's weird to see a revival of Fatal Fluffies.
It's awesome to see a revival of Fatal Fluffies, and the fact that there's the little bitty ones first. Like, I wish they had done those in the O-ring because they would have been tiny. They would have been so adorable.
Yeah.
I like that you just basically told a story about you doing some insider trading. That was fun.
I mean, it's not like I've worked for Super 7 and I was like, hey guys, everybody unload your Fatal Fluffies. It was just you gotta jump on it when you can, and that's what I did.
I don't blame you. I would have done the same thing. The Fatal Fluffies are so cool. They're such a weird, they're so weird that they're just kind of a thing that shows up, and correct me if I'm wrong, they don't really just keep coming back. They just kind of are there and then they're gone. Is that correct?
They're just in that miniseries, and like many characters that are only briefly shown, for the kids just like absorbed it, I guess. Or maybe it was because these episodes just replayed constantly. So you'd see this particular storyline time and time again. But yes, the G.I. Joe cartoon is unique in that you'd have one episode and it has Mara in it, who was like Shipwreck's girlfriend for that episode. And that was it. She was never mentioned or seen again except for the Synthoids. But you could talk to any kid or fan that grew up watching it, and they would immediately know these one, like Cadet Deming, who we're also getting recently, another one-off character, and Raven, the female Strato Viper that gets stranded with Slipstream. These are all characters that were very briefly used, and yet really fans were really passionate about it. I specifically am one of those people. I'm just like, don't show me anybody and don't give me a figure of them, because I can continue these adventures in other ways. And that's how I feel. Fatal Fluffies were crazy idea. They're funny but also kind of badass, and I don't know, it just like, for a kid, it really checks all those boxes, and something that was just like unusual and interesting. I think that's where the longevity comes into, is that it just stuck with you all these years.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And it speaks to just design. If you design something cool, it's gonna stick around. There's all kinds of things that, like Boba Fett. If you look at Boba Fett, he was just super cool. He sucked in the movies, didn't really do anything, but he was so well designed that everyone loved him. That's how the Fatal Fluffies are. Like, not that they sucked; they were actually pretty sweet, but they looked so cool that here we are all these years later, and we're getting 2 new versions of them in the same year. Really 3, I guess. Like, how cool that is. And I think how unique they are, they stand apart from everything. Like, and there's no, it's not like this super burdened down. They were just there. They didn't spend years developing this and being like, oh, we're gonna build up to the creation of like, they just were there. And how fun it was. Dropped them in there with no explanation. Here's these cute little guys, but they're called the Fatal Fluffies. They're not gonna stay cute and cuddly forever. So I love them. I'm excited that they're coming out. I'm excited that I can't imagine as a kid collecting G.I. Joe like you and never having those, and then 20, 30, 40 years later or whatever, hey, here they are now, and now you have them, and they're in the right scale, and they have the right articulation, and how cool that has to be.
It's extremely satisfying. I talk all the time about characters that don't have figures. It bothers me a lot, because the toys are I love it all, right? I read the comics, I collect the toys, all the toys. I collect it all, man. I got blankets, pillows. I'm like absorbed with the property, essentially. So when there's something that doesn't exist, it drives me crazy. It's part of what motivated me me all these years to be a customizer. I'm not a very good customizer, but it drives me to make those characters that we didn't get. I have to believe that the Super 7 Reaction Plus line is very successful, because if you compare it to the Ultimates line, which were like those 7-inch figures that they made, which has basically just completely stopped, these figures come out kind of aggressively. I feel like we've gotten multiple waves in a very short window. They've been pretty well received overall by me, if nobody else, and the selection is usually like 75% good stuff. They sneak in a turkey of almost every wave. We get that weird Action Force Hydro Viper, which I thought was maybe too deep of a cut. We've gotten multiple different Cobra Commanders, and Snake Eyes, which I'm just completely burnt out on. They gave us multiple troop builders of troops that we did not like. The Cobra La Garde as a troop that only got one version, and I had collected the vintage Cobra La Garde for a long time because I wanted to build up the Cobra La forces, and this was the only way to do it. So when they put out a Cobra La Garde that was also more authentic to the actual animated movie, that's just like a 10 of 10. And I haven't even had a chance to talk to Joel yet, but Joel was able to find these 2 Super 7 Reaction Plus figures, which are, if you're not watching the video, is the Ninja Force Cobra Commander and the Ninja Force Snake Eyes, which were 2 Target exclusives that I could not get my hands on here locally. I could do a 1-hour rant about my local Target, but I'm not going to. Instead, I'm just going to say publicly on the show, thanks, Joel. Joel's the type of guy, I mean, we're all like this. Like, it's great to be we're not just part of a show, we're also toy collectors. I sent a message and said, hey, I'm trying to find this Ninja Force Scarlet, and I'm trying to find these 2 Ninja Force figures that are Target exclusives. Because they're just not at my local Target. And I mean, like, maybe at 24 hours later, Joel is like, click, here they are. And so he picked them up for me. Obviously, I paid him for them. And he shipped them to me. I got them right away. If you've not seen these are really cool. Because these are kind of like loosely based off those prototype 1994, 1995 figures. Like stuff we were going to get. They were going to do a lot of weird stuff with the monsters and aliens. They had like a Dr. Mindbender that had an alien in him or something. But we were also seeing some Battle Core leftovers. These 2 figures remind me of that. I don't know if there's a very specific design these are based on, but they both lean into this like what if mentality. Like what if we had got another year? I feel like these would both be very incredibly likely figures based on how Ninja Force had ramped up from 93 and 94. They're both insane figures. They look ridiculous, but they're cool. It's a cool idea. You're trying something new, and I got to give them credit for that. The Cobra Commander, like I'm going to show them to you up close. I'll be unboxing these soon. I'll probably wait and do these and the Fatal Fluffy, and I also have the Super 7 Trouble Bubble. I'll probably do all of those at once early next week. So if you haven't seen these yet and you're interested in seeing any of that, you look forward to that. Yeah, I just so happen to be rearranging in my room. So here's just a quick blitz of some of the stuff that I've got. Here's Python Patrol
Serpentor. That's cool. He almost looks like he could be a Night Force. Like if
it's another clever repaint. There was no Python Patrol Serpentor originally, but in the animated series in Operation Dragonfire, they create Python Patrol around the same time Serpentor gets removed. So I thought, okay, makes sense. Here's another Serpentor, and this is the like comic book accurate colors.
That one's cool.
I don't buy all of them, but I do try to, if they're being creative, I try to get it. And I thought that was a really good recoloring.
I have Serpentor with my Python Patrol. Like that's like in my universe, Serpentor is the leader of the Python Patrol.
It makes sense, honestly. It's a perfectly normal. I think they're like his private guard.
Yeah.
I always have to say to myself, don't get off tangent. But I could have a long discussion with you about when Serpentor comes along. There's a split in Cobra, and it was kind of up to you to decide who goes with Serpentor and who goes with Cobra Commander. And there's no real definitive list. In the Cobra Civil War, there's a page in the back that shows a map of Cobra Island, and they have a bunch of people and kind of like what they're doing and whose side they're on. But there's so much more than that.
I think Crocmaster is with Serpentor, and then Shadow Tracker is with Serpentor. Those are like his lieutenants.
They don't go into like why people are siding with some people. It makes sense that Mindbender, the creator of Serpentor, is with Serpentor, and at that time,
put him up there.
At that time, Cobra Commander is actually an imposter, and Baroness is working with him. It's a little too convoluted to continue to just talk about it, but I will put that on the docket. I'd like to talk about who works for who, and examples of that kind of across like in the Image book. Overlord is a big Serpentor supporter, and Overlord is never used, hardly ever. So I think that made sense for him to kind of be his lieutenant, kind of like his Destro. That's how I've always envisioned it. We'll get into that. I'd actually like to put a call out to the public to just be like, tell me who works with who and why. Here's some more rapid fires. I just got a couple. Here's that Lady J that I just picked up at Winterfest.
Nice.
Yeah. That's an example of figures that I passed on because I didn't think they were repaints that I'd really needed because they're just the red, white, and blues. But it was cheaper than retail, so of course I bought it. And that's it's the Jaren method. I'm only going to get it if I can find it on the cheap. This is a bat with a bomb strapped on him,
That's cool.
It references this comic specifically. The burnt edges on the packaging are basically like, that's really what did it for me. And they've got
It's got a hole
classic,
burned through it and everything. That's so cool.
They've got an iconic comic cover that's like the 25th anniversary border, Snake Eyes from issue, I think it's 52 or 53. It is 53.
Like, every time I see
point
those,
for Greg.
especially when I see them in person, I'm like, should I just start collecting these? And I have to stop myself. But they look so good.
They're great. This is some of the best stuff that's happening right now.
If I saw one of those Cobra Law guards, though, I'd buy it in a heartbeat. 100%.
So, just a quick rapid fire, and then we'll get back to it, because you were asking to see the Cobra Law Royal Guard.
Oh, they look so good.
Yeah, they've got the little antenna. The sword is more accurate to the cartoon. They gave him a cape, which the original one didn't have. Big fan.
It's a little more orange than the...
Big fan. I bought several of them. I think I just bought like a case of them. I have more than this. I have at least 2 opened and maybe more in the closet. Just one of my favorite troop builders that are, again, notoriously difficult to, they were hard to find. You only had one option. This is a better one. I love it. So anyway, to summarize, the Super 7 Reaction Plus line rules. I think and hope that it's doing well, because I probably get more excited about this stuff than I do classified figures, which I know is not probably the popular opinion right now, but this is just like, I don't know, it pulls me back to my love of vintage figures as a kid. I have some reservations about breaking out my old figures, and because I'm always afraid something's going to happen to them or I'm going to break them. Some of them are just too frail. These guys, I've opened all of them. The ones you see unopened are like extras or duplicates, repaints that I don't have room to display. But all the normal figures that I've talked about are on my shelf. Like, I can see them from here. And I have just a little bit of room left to grow. So I have another couple waves, and it should all be good. The last thing we have to talk about is something that a lot of people have been talking about right now, because there's a lot of buzz going around it. It's a new live-action G.I. Joe movie.
Oh, yeah.
Strap in, folks. Here we go again. If you remember any of the last G.I. Joe movies, it typically has a cycle of, we're excited, we're nervous, it's here, that's a bummer. Mostly, the movies do not connect with the overall fan base. It is difficult to bridge the gap between what us, the fans, want and what will also appeal to the broad public. Because if you only make something that the hardcore fans want, you've alienated 80% of the people that watch movies. So I'm not unsympathetic to how difficult it is to make a good G.I. Joe movie that pleases everybody. Most people were shocked when they heard that Danny McBride from Eastbound and Down and The Righteous Gemstones, and he helmed or was in charge of those newer Halloween reboots, seems to be the guy in charge. Danny went on a podcast. I don't know what podcast it was. Maybe he's done multiple appearances at this point. But was basically like, I grew up with G.I. Joe. I love G.I. Joe. It influenced me a lot. I have a concept for the movie, which is roughly supposed to be based around the idea that the G.I. Joes are in a Springfield, maybe not the Springfield, and they're trying to, and everybody there is he doesn't say Springfield, I don't think. He just says the Joes are in a town where everybody is a Cobra. And so I'm going to assume that at least part of that is just like they're on the run. They're trying to either escape or stay undiscovered. I mean, I seriously doubt that the script is finalized. They're probably still ironing it out. But in my head, based on that synopsis, that's kind of the vibe I've got, is that it's a small team, goes in to infiltrate perhaps innocently, and then is shocked to discover that the whole town is a front, and they have to, I don't know what the bigger plot would be there. They discover a weather dominator or some kind of weapon of mass destruction that they have to unite and take down. I am a huge fan of Danny McBride as an actor, for certain. All the stuff that I named that he's been in, not the Halloween reboots, I'm a big fan of. I love Eastbound and Down, one of the most quotable shows I've ever watched. So I know that he has the comedic chops to bring it will clearly be, it'll have a lot of comedy in it. It won't be a comedy, but you know what I mean. Like you watch a Fast and the Furious movie, unfortunately, and it's loaded with like just these throwaway jokes. And that's what I'm envisioning, is that it's a very action heavy movie that also has quite a bit of lightheartedness. Again, at the end of the day, it's still a children's property. You want it to be fun to a certain degree. You don't want it to be most people don't want it to be all green military action dudes doing that. You can watch that anywhere. Go watch Black Hawk Down, bro. Like, I don't need it to be like that. I want it to have some elements of science fiction. Even the supernatural doesn't bother me too much. I want it to be fantastical, I guess is what I'm getting at. If they do go down into Springfield and they find an arcade with Dr. Venom in it and there's something crazy there, that's what I want. So yes, it's hard to walk that line between the realism, because I do want it to be authentic military, but I want the scenarios to be larger than life at the same time. I have not paid attention to the preliminary casting. I did see that Chris Hemsworth was in the running, and then I don't know what happened. He dropped out. It's not on the table any longer. And I guess we can only assume that he was going to be Duke, right? I mean, and I think he would have been a pretty solid choice, quite honestly. When the Hemsworth dropped out, whichever one of them it was, pretty sure it's the Thor guy, though.
Yeah.
Now they're saying that Bradley Cooper is linked to it.
Oh, that's who it was. Bradley Cooper just feels too old. Bradley Cooper, the difference between Chris Hemsworth and Bradley Cooper is Chris Hemsworth seems like he could still play like a mid-30s, younger, even lower, maybe lower 30s if you have to. But I think you could still skew that way. Whereas Bradley Cooper, I feel like he's got to be Hawk. In my mind, I'm he's got to be the older guy. You can't have him being your lead, your young guy. Yeah,
I agree with that. I don't think he's a good fit for Duke. I think he probably would be a good fit for Hawk. It's actually kind of ironic. He seems too old for Duke. He maybe seems too young for Hawk.
Yeah.
But in Hollywood, everybody's young people are always playing older people because they want them to look. I don't know what the philosophy there is, but you're right. Hawk, I think he would be a better fit for Hawk. Maybe they could gray him up a little bit. On the classified figure, he's got a little bit of gray in his hair.
Don't get me wrong. I love Bradley Cooper. I think he'd be. If we can get Bradley Cooper in a G.I. Joe movie, I don't care what he plays. I will be excited because that means we're getting a legit cast. Not that saved a movie before, because I felt like the cast for the Snake Eyes movie was fantastic. They actually had some really good actors in that one.
I agree.
So not that it would mean it's going to be great, but Bradley Cooper is he's in that top echelon to me. He is a movie star. Now the G.I. Joe Snake Eyes movie had some really good stars, but they didn't have a Bradley Cooper. They didn't have Samuel L. Jackson. They didn't have that tier.
No, they didn't have any mega stars. Let me tell you an oddball. Bradley Cooper in the recent years is known for doing the voice of Rocket Raccoon. Is there a possibility that he's going to do the voice of Cobra Commander? Or maybe even, sometimes they don't treat the source material as sacred as we do.
Right.
So all I know,
honestly, they shouldn't. You can't take it. You're gonna have to take liberties with it. As much as we're all diehard Joe fans, let's be real. For this movie to be a success, there's going to have to be some liberties taken. There's gonna have to be some changes made.
So what I'm getting at is that we might see Bradley Cooper as a car salesman, pre Cobra Commander, and then he would probably still be in the suit, but he would be doing the voice acting. I wouldn't rule that out. I do think it's incredibly likely he's going to be in it to some capacity because he worked closely with Danny on the Righteous Gemstones. He's in the premiere of the last episode or the last season.
Gosh, I love that.
Similarly, Walton Goggins, who is everywhere right now and is also very close with Danny, he seems to be connected to this movie. Funnily enough, Walton Goggins is in G.I. Joe Retaliation. He's the guy that is running the security center where Cobra Commander and Destro are in those like water tubes. This is before he's like really took off. This is like post Justified, but pre. I don't know what like skyrocketed him into the public awareness. Maybe the Righteous Gemstones, but now he's the freaking face for Walmart. He does the ads for Walmart. He's in the White Lotus. He's in all kinds. I mean, like he's in Fallout. He's blowing up. Is what I'm getting at, which is cool because he might not have signed on for another G.I. Joe movie after he was in one that was not great if it wasn't for his close relationship with Danny. I don't know that for a fact. I have no idea who they would cast him as. If he's not gonna, I genuinely don't know.
He's got to be Zartan, right?
I mean,
if he's not Cobra Commander, I feel like he could play a weird Zartan.
He is also too old, I feel
That's
like,
fair.
to be a Joe, because he's got a personality that would make for a good like Shipwreck in my mind. But and I can say this because I'm a bald man. His hairline is horrible. It's like he's got like his hair doesn't start to like the back of his head, which don't get me wrong, I would take in a heartbeat over no hair at all. But from an acting standpoint, he's not going to be able to play a young military soldier unless he pulls a Nick Cage and they give him a full hairpiece, which I don't see either. So you're right, Zartan.
We could just see him as the president. I mean, he could just be like one of those roles.
I feel like I would be a little let down if he has a small, but you're right. He could just be some maybe he's Dr. Venom.
Oh, yeah.
He actually kind of would be close. You know, if we're casting everybody slightly younger than we think they would be for Hollywood purposes, he would be about the right age. He does have the right hairline for that, and I think that would be a very
Walton Goggins though. He's such a good actor. I feel like the acting part he could do on anybody.
Walton Goggins has got this like Southern accent. As a guy that has this like a country accent, his is like the dial has gone up and then broken off. It's so accentuated in everything. It's not just a role that he plays. You hear it in all of his characters. And yet at the same time, I'm like, what is that? I'm from here. Listen to the way I roll. My eyes always give me away when I'm out. People are always like, where are you from? And I'm like, mind your own business. But Goggins has got that like, he's got that weird like twang and that I've never really heard him not have. So I would be interested in seeing how he would change for that. But you're right. He's a fantastic actor.
I've got one more to throw out.
Okay.
And I don't know if it works like culturally. I don't know. I don't remember exactly where everybody's from. Carl Urban as Destro.
I could see that. I mean, obviously, Urban's like he's British, right?
He's something Australian, maybe.
Maybe, but yeah, I mean, I'm certain he could do a very good Scottish accent. He would be great as anybody. Carl Urban's awesome.
He's New Zealand. I should have known that. He's from New Zealand.
So
actually,
he would be a good Zartan. Actually,
actually, he would be.
I don't know. I'm always. It's exciting to be in the first parts of a movie creation as a spectator, because every little piece of news like is either gonna make or break you, but it gives you this information to talk about and speculate on as we wait for things to actually start going. Like we're gonna hear more and more casting announcements as things start rolling and information starts to leak out and we learn more plot details and etc. When the Snake Eyes movie was coming out, we rented a theater. We were going to be there the day it came out and watch it. And I don't even remember the details, but I knew the entire plot outline of the movie before I set foot in the theater. It was just out there. Yeah. And so that's kind of where we're at as a podcast / YouTube channel that reports on the news sometimes. This is something that we'll be talking about a lot. We're not even going to get into like who we wish was playing it, because I know Joel has a lot of thoughts in the movie. I'd like to get us all gathered. I know it's a little cliche to do a fan casting, but we've never done one. And you can tell, just like everything, Jaren and I have lots of different ideas that are both awesome. We have two different visions for that stuff. And I know Joel will as well. And I'm
We got to
always
do that.
interested
We got to
in seeing
get that
come
on
together.
the docket. We got to
Yeah,
get
so
that
I'd
on
like-
the docket because
I'd like to-
my mind is going wild.
I'd like to make a rough, I'd like make this many good guys, this many bad guys, cast them, and then let's compare notes. We'll put that on the
We
to-do
should-
list.
We should do that and then send it out to everyone. Like maybe on the end of our next maybe we work on that, and then when we record our next episode, we'll be like, hey, so here's what we're thinking. Here's the premise. We're gonna have this many Joes, Cobra, and these kind of people. This is kind of our parameters and the framework that we're gonna work in, and then send that out to you guys, and then that way you guys can do it with us, and then we can all come back together and do it because that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah,
but we got
I
to do
would-
it before they start really casting.
I would love to hear from the community as a whole. Let's collaborate on our collaborative journey through the world of G.I. Joe.
Hey.
You can leave a comment in
separate
this
thing.
video. You can write an email if you've got a full cast in mind to anythingjoespod@gmail.com. I'm always interested in this type of stuff. I think it's fun to kind of play around with what our perfect movie would look like. And I'd also be interested to see if you guys have one specific actor or actress in mind for one specific character. Like if we get a bunch of comments or emails and everybody keeps saying this person should be Baroness for sure, I would like to talk about that on the show as well, like what the popular public opinion is on it. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I would love to hear from you guys about all the things that we've talked about. Tomb Raider, coming to the comic book, Fatal Fluffies, Super 7 Reaction Plus stuff, fan casting for the new G.I. Joe movie, or hopes and thoughts about the G.I. Joe movie in general. You can leave a comment right here in this YouTube section. You can email us at anythingjoespod@gmail.com or anythingjoespodcast@gmail.com, and we would love to hear from you. We'll be back in 2 short weeks. We've got plenty of stuff going on right now. Jaren and I are going to resume our Renegades watch. We probably are not going to just burn through the whole thing, but I want to at least get through this 2-parter as we bop around the animated world and I show Jaren some different animation styles that have existed for G.I. Joe over the years. And I've got unboxings of those Super 7 reactions plus the Super 7 Trouble Bubble coming soon. I've also got a huge unboxing of the Playmates TMNT crossover. If you've seen that, I want to get it all. I've almost got it all. I just ordered the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Leonardo and Razor. I was able to get the Amazon exclusive Dragonfly that comes with a Wild Bill outfit for Raphael. The only thing I'm waiting on now is I have a Storm Shadow, and I bought a regular Raphael because he has a Roadblock outfit, and I was going to need 2, I guess, to use them both. So when I have those 2 figures, which are coming soon, I'm going to unbox all of them, including the exclusives, and we'll talk about them. They're very cool in the box, so I'm excited to get into them. I hope the rest of this stuff shows up soon. And I'd like to hear from your guys' thoughts on those as well. If you hope that wave continues or other crossovers you think you would like to see. It's very, very rare that we see this type of stuff with G.I. Joe. So, of course, I was all in on it. File Cards Volume 10 is now available on most streaming services. It's not available on YouTube Music yet, but I placed a request for them to look into it. It might be up by the time this episode is out. I recently discovered that some people have been purchasing the music because you can buy the higher quality audio through Amazon, the Amazon Music Workplace, and I guess the iTunes Music Library both have the options to purchase the albums, which I didn't expect. No, I have never asked for your guys' money. I've tried to make them for free for everybody, but I greatly appreciate it. And I do what I always do when I make money off something that I'm doing as a hobby or for fun. I reinvested that money. I bought the rights to more samples, more beats, and more music so I could continue to develop the style of what I'm doing. And I try not to get a big head about it, but I'm very happy with the stuff that I've been making recently. I've put a ton of time into it, and it makes me happy. And ultimately, that's the only real motivation I need to do it. But I'm really, really pleased that other people are starting to listen to it and that they're enjoying it. That's all I wanted to do, is to just share it with you guys. And if you guys liked it, that's great. So anyway, I've got some very exciting stuff. I don't want to spoil it, but I basically bought the rights to cover a song that I could use. This is what I did with the money. I just was immediately like, I'm going to do something silly with it. So I bought the rights to a real song so I could cover it and use it with this G.I. Joe song. I think you guys will be very surprised by it.
How? I didn't even know that was something you could do. I'm so excited.
You can license the rights to cover a particular music if it's available, and this song was, and that's what I used the money on, and it's a real hoot. So I'm excited for you guys to see it. Anyway, that's available for streaming. I'd love for you guys to listen to it, share your thoughts with it. I've got a roadmap laid out pretty concretely now, and my workflow is I'm gonna work on it all the time. As soon as I'm done with this, I'll probably go back to working on it. Anyway, enough about that. Please listen to it if you're interested in it at all. If you're not, don't worry about it. I only talk about it at the end of episodes. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We love you guys, and we look forward to talking to you again in just 2 short weeks where anything's available for discussion here on Anything Goes.